This happened 8 years ago. I was 32 and lost my job. I moved back to my hometown to care for my father. I thought I could find peace, but my curiosity consumed me. The abandoned village in the woods haunted me since I was a kid. 8 years ago, it had become a ghost town overnight. People just vanished without a trace. On a chill morning, I approached the village on foot. The roads were overgrown and the trees leaned in like watchful sentinels. I pushed through the thick brush, feeling pricks against my arms. The houses looked ready to crumble, like no one had lived there in ages. I found the old community center at the heart of it all. The door creaked open, and a cloud of dust swirled around me. The musty smell hit me hard. My heart raced. This had been a place of laughter once, but now it was heavy with silence. I ventured deeper into the building. Old tables were stacked up against the wall. In the corner, something gleamed, a journal. I picked it up, and the pages crinkled under my touch. The writing was messy and frantic. The last paragraphs spoke of community gatherings. They seemed innocent at first, but then, there were entries about the call. I shivered. What could that mean? Over the next few days, I spoke to locals. They were tight-lipped. Their eyes darted away when I brought up the village. One woman whispered she heard faint music at night, echoing from deep in the woods. She wouldn't go near it though. I felt like an outsider, loud in the thick silence. But I had to know more. I continued reading the journal. The last entries sent chills down my spine. They wrote of shadows lurking behind curtains and a sense of being watched. Each word made my pulse quicken. I tried to shake off the nervousness, but the rhythm of my heart betrayed me. One evening, I returned to the village. The air was heavy with a sense of dread. I stood outside the community center, and my stomach flipped. As the sun faded, music reached my ears. It was haunting and beautiful, but wrong somehow. I felt rooted to the spot, my legs heavy. I glanced around. Dark shadows flickered at the edges of my vision. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Then a voice whispered behind me, "Why are you here?" I spun around, but no one was there. My breath caught in my throat. Goosebumps spread over my skin. I felt the weight of the silence, the thickening darkness surrounding me. I wanted to leave, to escape whatever I had waded into. But the pull of the village was strong. I took a shaky step backward, imagining the stories of people lost to the woods. What did they find? What had called them? I could feel the dark closing in, the shadows stretching toward me. My heart pounded wildly. I realized I was caught between the urge to uncover the truth and the need to flee. The village held secrets I was not ready to face. The whispers rose louder, echoing like a warning. I took another step back. Something was lurking, waiting for me to decide. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The whisper lingered in the air, sending another chill up my spine. I was on the edge of something terrible, and yet the urge to discover the truth gripped me. I had to leave, but my legs felt glued to the ground. As the music swirled around me, I finally turned, bolting toward the woods. The shadows seemed to close in behind me, and I could almost feel their fingers reaching out. I stumbled through the underbrush, branches snagging at my clothes. Every crack of a twig sent a jolt through me. Was it just my imagination, or was something following? I burst into the clearing, panting and wide-eyed. The dark trees surrounded me, and the music faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. I tried to catch my breath, but my mind raced. I wanted to run straight home, away from this cursed place. But I couldn't shake the weight of the journal's words. What had happened to the villagers? What had called them into the woods? Determined to find answers, I decided to return to the community center the next day. As dawn broke, I gathered my courage. The sun cast long shadows, but I wouldn't let fear stop me. I felt an urgency pulling me back, like an invisible thread. When I arrived, the air was heavy, thick with memories. I stepped inside, and the dust motes danced in the light. This time, I felt the familiar sense of dread, but it was mixed with a resolve I hadn't had before. I searched the community center for more clues, hoping to uncover what lay hidden behind those whispered words of the journal. In a closet, I noticed a dusty bulletin board. Papers were still pinned to it, curling at the edges. As I examined them, one caught my eye. It was an old flyer for a festival, a village celebration that promised food, music, and unity. Everyone looked happy. But a small detail struck me: the date was the last time anyone had seen the villagers. A surge of panic thrummed in my chest. Why would they celebrate before vanishing? Could they have known something? My fingers grazed over the paper, and a small, rusted key fell from a hidden compartment on the board. I picked it up, puzzled. That S when I heard it, a faint melody, the same tune that had haunted me. The music began soft but grew louder, echoing off the walls. I felt it vibrating in my bones, a call I couldn't ignore. The idea flashed through my mind: could the key unlock something else in this village? An answer possibly hidden away? The urge to explore surged again, competing with the terror crawling up my spine. I had to know what lay ahead, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As I stepped back into the fading light of the community center, the unsettling music filled my ears again, intertwining with my thoughts. I turned, clutching the key tightly, ready to face whatever awaited me. But the moment my foot crossed the threshold, everything changed. The air turned icy, the music froze, and the shadows closed in. Then, everything went dark. I blinked, trying to clear the darkness from my vision. It was like waking up from a nightmare, but finding the nightmare was still very much real. My heart raced as I fumbled in the empty space, desperately seeking something to ground myself. The air was thick, stifling even, and I could taste the dust rising from the floor. Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the darkness. It came from ahead, a soft glow that beckoned me forward. I shuffled toward it, my pulse quickening with each cautious step. Was I truly alone, or was something lurking in the shadows, watching me? The light grew brighter, revealing the outlines of old furniture and cobwebs in the corners. I had stumbled into a forgotten room, a storage area of the community center perhaps. Just beyond the light, I could see rows of old chairs stacked haphazardly and peeling paint that spoke of neglect. Then I noticed a small door at the far end of the room, slightly ajar. The key in my hand felt heavier suddenly, as if it had a purpose it was trying to impart. I could feel the pull to use it. I approached the door, the faint melody still echoing in my ears, urging me on. With trembling hands, I inserted the key into the rusted lock. It turned with a soft click, and I hesitated for a moment, my breath shallow. What was waiting on the other side? I pushed the door open and stepped through. Inside was a narrow corridor lined with faded photographs. I recognized some faces. They were the same villagers from the festival flyer. Their smiles seemed frozen in time, yet their eyes held secrets. I shivered, taking in the eerie atmosphere. The music swelled again, louder now, wrapping around me like a fog. At the end of the corridor, a larger room opened up. Candles flickered along the walls, illuminating what looked like a gathering space from long ago. In the center stood a weathered table, covered in a white cloth. A dusty chandelier hung overhead, its crystals sparkling faintly in the candlelight. As I stepped closer, my foot kicked something on the floor. I bent down to pick it up. It was a small, crumpled note. I unfolded it, and my throat tightened as I read the words scrawled in shaky handwriting: "They can't resist the music. They never turned back." My mind raced with questions. Who was the they? The villagers? Or something worse? Just then, the shadows around me seemed to shift, pooling ominously. An icy breeze ran through the room, sending shivers down my spine. That's when I heard a noise behind me. A low sound, part whisper, part laughter, echoing through the corridor. I felt the warmth fade from my body, replaced with dread. Someone, or something, was coming for me. I turned quickly, but the corridor was empty. The music stopped abruptly, leaving a deafening silence in its place. I gulped, heart pounding, and bolted for the door. Whatever had been luring me in was now a presence I couldn't ignore. As I crossed the threshold, the warmth of the candlelight vanished, replaced by a chilling air that buzzed with tension. Panic surged through me as I stumbled backward, realizing too late that there was no safe place left to run. Someone was in the village with me. I could feel it. I had to find a way out, but I was still drawn to the mystery, unable to turn away. The pull of the unknown was too strong, and now I was caught in its web. I moved down the corridor, my back pressed against the wall, glancing over my shoulder. The shadows deepened, warping with every flicker from the candles. Fear gnawed at my stomach as I strained to listen. Had the laughter really belonged to someone, or was it just my imagination playing tricks? I reached for my phone, fumbling with it until I found the flashlight app. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the photographs on the walls. The villagers' faces were etched in an unsettling pitifulness, their smiles almost mocking now. I swept the light across their features, searching for any signs of recognition or clues in their eyes. Were they aware of something I wasn't? Bracing myself, I moved further down the corridor, the flashlight beam trembling. A creak echoed ahead, making my heart skip a beat. It was followed by a soft thump. I froze, instinctively backing away, but another sound pulled my attention. It was coming from the door I had just exited, the same door that led to the darker room. I swallowed hard and swept the beam back toward it. The door was now fully closed. Had it come back on its own? I glanced at the note in my hand. It felt heavier, laden with the burdens of its message. They never turned back. A sharp chill seized the air, and I could smell something rotten, like decay lingering just out of sight. I hesitated, feeling trapped between the urge to escape and the pull to uncover the truth. Every instinct screamed to leave, but I needed answers. I stepped back carefully, making my way to the end of the corridor where it opened into a wider area, the source of the thumping now muffled. The last candle flickered, threatening to extinguish, throwing long shadows across the room. I aimed the beam once more, landing it on a rickety old cabinet that stood against the wall. That's when I saw a dark figure crouched beside the cabinet, its head hung low. My breath hitched. It looked almost human, but something about the shape felt wrong, unnatural. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. The figure shifted, jerking its head up sharply. I felt my skin crawl. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light like two distant stars in a vast emptiness. "They won't let you go," it whispered, a raspy echo that sent shivers down my spine. Before I could react, the figure darted away, slipping into a hidden passage behind the cabinet. My heart raced as I considered my next move. Should I follow? Just then, a loud bang echoed through the room, and suddenly, the candles extinguished, plunging everything into blackness. A frantic sound crashed around me, furniture scraping, something heavy being dragged across the floor. Whatever was in the shadows with me was advancing. I could sense it closing in. I sprinted back, desperate to find the door, but now my world was an abyss of silence and darkness. I had to get out. But which way was safe? The darkness felt suffocating, wrapping around me like a wet blanket. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding louder than my frantic thoughts. My flashlight had failed me, the darkness was unyielding. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the panic rising within me, but every small sound made my pulse race faster. I could still hear that strange scraping noise. Whatever lurked in this shrouded space was closer now. I squeezed my eyes shut, clenching my fists, reminding myself to stay calm. I wouldn't let fear paralyze me. I needed light. I needed to see. I yanked my phone from my pocket again, praying that the flashlight would respond. With a flick, the beam came back to life, cutting through the heavy blackness with a force of desperation. I aimed it at the source of that scraping. The light caught a shadow lurking near the far wall. It was moving but didn't look like the figure I had seen before. My heart dropped. The shape was bulkier, dragging something behind it. I couldn't make out what it was, but the way it shifted sent icy tendrils of dread coursing through me. "Who is there?" I managed to call, my voice more tremulous than I'd intended. The figure halted, and I held my breath. "Help me," it murmured in a low, raspy voice that sent chills down my spine. My instincts screamed for me to flee, but something deeper pushed me to take a step closer. "What happened to you?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. The shadow lifted its head slowly. It looked almost human, but its features were blurred, as if the darkness was distorting its very existence. "The villagers, they took me. They won't let me go." I blinked. Villagers? My mind raced back to the photos lining the walls. The trapped faces, the mocking grins, they had been smiling, but the truth felt sinister. Why? I pressed, gripping my phone tighter. There is no escape, it said, and in that moment, a resonating bang echoed behind me. I spun around, heart racing. The door I had fled from minutes earlier creaked open, and an icy gust rushed through the corridor, extinguishing my light. Panic surged in my veins. I whirled back to the shadow, now fading into the darkness. Wait! I shouted, but I could already hear the muffled sound of doors slamming shut around the building. I felt utterly trapped. Find the truth, the figure whispered just before vanishing completely into the black. I stood frozen as the dark closed in around me, the sound of footsteps echoing from behind. Someone or something was in the corridor with me. My heart dropped as I realized I had little time. I turned back, focusing on the faint light from the door. I had to escape, but my legs felt heavy. Each step I took toward the door felt like it was dragging me back, as if the shadows wanted to pull me in. The voice from the figure echoed in my mind. Find the truth. With one final burst of energy, I sprinted toward the door, my breath sticking in my throat. I could sense that something dark was watching me, waiting for the moment I faltered. I stumbled into the entryway just as a chilling laugh filled the air. I slammed the door shut behind me, leaning against it, my pulse racing, breath shaky. But the laughter didn't stop. It joined with another sound, the whisper of familiar voices, then it hit me. I recognized those voices as the very same villagers captured in those photographs. They were not just memories, they were warnings. And I had to find out why. I pressed my back against the door, fighting the urge to slide down to the floor. The laughter and whispers swirled in my mind, a cacophony of voices mingling with my frantic thoughts. Why were they calling out to me? What did they want? I took a deep breath and forced myself to scan the entryway. The dim light from the hallway flickered ominously, but I needed to stay focused. There had to be something here that could explain what was happening. I summoned courage and tightened my grip on my phone, its weak light my only lifeline. The walls were lined with more photographs, their eerie smiles seeming to mock my fear. As I stepped closer, trying to make sense of the faces before me, a small wooden table caught my eye at the far end of the room. On it lay a dusty journal, its leather cover cracked and worn. I hesitated, weighed down by the shifting shadows around me, but curiosity pushed me forward. I picked up the journal, its pages yellowed and fragile. Flipping it open, I found an entry dated 8 years ago. My heartbeat quickened as I read, "Today, they took another one. Sarah went missing, just like the others. The villagers say we must obey the pact. I don't understand what that means. I see shadows in the woods, whispering to me. I cannot sleep. They know things." The more I read, the more horrified I became. Each entry documented someone's disappearance, their names fading through the pages like the very light in my phone. I flipped through to the last entry. It stopped abruptly, the ink trailing off as if the writer was interrupted. "Help" was scrawled at the bottom, the letters jagged and frantic. Suddenly, the door rattled behind me, breaking my concentration. I spun around, heart racing again. The shaking intensified, each tremor causing a ripple of panic in my gut. I couldn't think. I had to get out of here. I glanced around the room for another exit, but there was none. The only path was back through the door, and I could hear low whispers filtering through the wood. "Help us," they cried, morphing into a single, chilling plea. The shadows in the corners seemed to dance closer, stretching toward me, and I felt cold fingers of dread clutching my throat. I turned my attention back to the journal, desperate for answers, but I was shaken by a sudden realization. The last names, they echoed faintly in my memory. They were the same as the faces in the photographs. Why? I shouted, the sound of my voice sharpening the intensity of the whispers. Why did you take them? But the only response was the door crashing against the wall, opening wide into complete darkness. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as shadows spilled into the room like a tide. I hesitated, the murmurs rising in a crescendo, urging me forward into that void. Then everything went dark. I lost my footing, the journal slipped from my grasp and fell to the floor. The world spun. I tried to scramble to my feet, but something cold coiled around my ankle, yanking me down into the engulfing blackness. I fought against it, desperate for light, for breath, for clarity. But as I was pulled under, the whispers transformed into laughter, sharp and triumphant, and in that fading moment, one thought struck me: I was not the first to search for truth in this cursed place. I gasped as my eyes shot open, light flooding my vision like water rushing in. Seconds later, I realized I was lying on a cold floor, the air heavy and stale. Panic surged through me, but I quickly forced myself to sit up. I was in a small, dimly lit room, its walls uneven and covered in peeling paint. It took a moment for my mind to catch up with where I was. The whispers were gone, replaced by a chilling silence that wrapped around me. My phone lay a few feet away, flickering weakly. As I crawled toward it, a shiver ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. When I finally reached the phone, I turned it on. The faint glow revealed my surroundings: old furniture draped in dusty sheets, a single window caked in grime, and another door on the far wall. I stood, still trembling, and approached the door cautiously. What did I stumble into? My mind raced through the journal entries. Those names: Sarah, and the others, had they been here too? I pressed my ear against the door. It was quiet, too quiet. I turned the handle slowly and pushed it open. The sight before me made my stomach drop. This room was different. Sunlight streamed through cracked wooden beams, illuminating a large table in the center. Papers were strewn across it, some torn, others burned. A map of the village lay open, with red X's marking certain areas. That was when I noticed a photograph tucked under a pile of documents. I picked it up and felt the blood drain from my face. It was a picture of a group of people standing in front of the same old building I'd just escaped. Among them was Sarah. She looked alive, laughing, free. My heart raced as I flipped the picture over. A date was scrawled on the back: June 12, 2015. 8 years ago. I was about to put the photograph down when a shadow shifted across the far wall. I froze. No one should be here. Hello? I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. But the only answer was silence, heavy and suffocating. Backing away from the table, I bumped into something hard behind me. I turned, and my breath caught in my throat. A figure stood in the doorway, shrouded in shadow. Its face wasn't visible, but I could make out the outline of a familiar outline: a woman who had hauntingly appeared in the pictures throughout the house. "Why did you come here?" she asked, her voice a soft echo that sent chills racing down my spine. I was looking for answers," I stammered, fear tightening my throat. Her figure shifted slightly, and I saw a hint of desperation in her posture. "You should leave now," she warned. "Before they find you too." Before I could respond, the air grew colder. A gust of wind swept through the room, sending papers flying and extinguishing the sunlight that had warmed my skin. I turned to the window, but it was barred. I was trapped. My heart raced wildly. "What did you mean?" I shouted as I backed toward the door. But the figure was gone, swallowed by shadows. Then, from deep within the walls, the whispers returned, more urgent this time. "Join us," they coaxed. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just trying to discover the truth. I was in danger of becoming part of this twisted story. I stood frozen, every instinct screaming at me to run. The whispers were growing louder, creeping into my mind. "Join us." I shook my head violently, pressing my palms to my ears. But the sound seeped through, gnawing at my resolve. I had to find a way out. Panic ignited adrenaline in my veins, and I stumbled back into the room where I'd found the photograph. The scattered papers felt like a lifeline. I could search for clues. My eyes darted over the chaotic mess, trying to make sense of it. There were strange symbols scribbled in the margins of some pages, almost like a foreign language. I picked up a sheet covered in hastily drawn circles and lines. It looked like a ritual. Notes accompanied the images, but I couldn't decipher them in my frantic state. My heart raced. Suddenly, I heard footsteps coming from the hallway. I dropped the paper, my pulse quickening. I dashed towards the window, pressing my face against the grime-caked glass. My hands trembled on the bars. I could see the overgrown garden outside. It felt like the only escape. But the window wouldn't budge. As I turned back, I heard the footsteps growing closer. A cold dread settled in my stomach. I needed to hide. I spotted a darkened corner behind the table and quickly crouched down, praying it would be enough. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. My breath hitched when I recognized him. It was the man from the pictures, his eyes now void of life, hollow and cold. He stepped further into the room, and I could feel his presence like a heavy weight pressing down on me. The whispers intensified around him, swirling like a tempest. "Find her," he murmured to himself, his voice echoing eerily. "She must join." He paced restlessly, his fingers brushing over the papers. I held my breath, my heart pounding against my ribs. Would he notice me? He suddenly stopped, as if sensing something was amiss. I stifled my gasp and pressed my back against the wall, trying to blend into the shadows. The man scanned the room, unease etched across his face. Then he stepped back toward the door, still mumbling, "She is close. I can feel it." As he left, I exhaled shakily, frantically piecing together what I had heard. It seemed like he was searching for me, or someone else like me. What did he mean by join? I couldn't linger. If he was out there looking for me, I had to make my move. I crawled out from my hiding spot, my legs numb as I emerged from the corner. The moment felt surreal, like I was living in a nightmare. Scanning the room for another exit, my eyes landed on an old cabinet. It seemed heavy and worn, but if I could pry it open, I hurried over and tugged at one of the doors. To my surprise, it creaked open. Inside were dusty old tools and rusted implements, nothing I could use to defend myself. That's when I saw something tucked in the back corner, a small, dark box, seemingly untouched by time. I pulled it out carefully, my heart racing with anticipation, but as I opened it, a chill ran down my spine. I realized these were remnants of the village, links to the past. I needed answers, but what I found only raised more questions. The footsteps echoed from the hallway again, this time heavier and more deliberate. "She is here," a familiar voice called in a tone of urgency. The realization hit me hard. I wasn't just in danger, I was part of something bigger, something that sought to pull me in. Panic surged through me once more. I had to leave, right then and there, but the door was swiftly closing. I slammed the cabinet door shut and pressed myself against the wall, my breath quickening. The footsteps were louder now, but I couldn't think straight. My mind raced with a million thoughts. Where was I? What did these people want from me? And why did that man's words feel so familiar? Suddenly, I remembered the box. I had to take it with me. It could hold the keys to unraveling the mystery of this place. I reached down, feeling the cool surface of the box through my trembling fingers. But I couldn't linger. I needed both the box and an escape. I tucked the box under my arm, feeling its weight as I turned toward the door. Just as I made my move, the door swung wide open, almost as if the weight of my fear had summoned the man back. There he was, standing in the doorway with a twisted smile stretched across his pallid face. "There you are," he said, his voice cold and eerily calm. "I knew you'd be here." In a flash of instinct, I darted past him, desperate to escape. I sprinted down the hallway, my heart pounding. The sounds of his footsteps echoed behind me, but I couldn't slow down. All I could focus on was finding the way out. I dashed down a narrow corridor, and for a brief moment, the whispers faded. I felt a flicker of hope. I could hear my own breath, the thundering in my ears pushing me onward. I stumbled upon a staircase leading down. Without a second thought, I descended quickly, each heavy thud of my feet feeling like the final echoes of my sanity. The ground floor felt different. The air was thick, almost stifling. I came across an open door at the end of the hall, light spilling into the darkened corridor like a beacon. Escape! I reached the door and slammed it open. Outside, the overgrown garden sprawled before me, wild and untamed. Desperate to put distance between me and the man, I stepped onto the cracked stone path. But the garden felt strange, almost alive. The once comforting greenery now twisted ominously, shadows dancing in the corners of my vision. Then I heard it again, his voice, rising above the whispers. "She can't escape. Find her." I felt my blood run cold. Panic gripped me once more. I had to keep moving. The garden seemed to close in, branches reaching out like fingers, urging me back inside. Was there someone waiting for me within its depths? As I turned to flee, I spotted another figure standing at the far end of the garden, their face obscured by the shadows. My heart sank. Could this person be friend or foe? As the figure stepped closer, the air thickened with dread. That's when it hit me, this was part of their plan. The man from the photographs wasn't just searching for me, he was orchestrating a trap. Before I could react, the figure lunged toward me, and darkness pressed against my vision again. I stumbled backward, falling into an unseen pit of shadows. Everything went black. I woke up gasping, disoriented, and drenched in a cold sweat. The lingering weight of the darkness slipped away like a bad dream as I blinked against a harsh light. I was sprawled on the wooden floor of a dimly lit room, the walls adorned with peeling posters and dusty photographs. After the oppressive dread of the village, the normalcy of my surroundings felt surreal. Panic surged as I took in my surroundings. Where was I? I scrambled to my feet, heart racing, looking for a way out. I pushed through a doorway, emerging into a narrow hallway. The air was stale, the silence oppressive. Ghostly shadows advanced across the walls, playing tricks on my mind. Hello? I called out, my voice trembling. There was no response, just a hollow echo that faded into nothing. I felt like a moth drawn to a flame, compelled to uncover the truth even though every instinct cried to turn back. I remembered the figure, the whispers, and the urgency of that last warning. Suddenly, the sound of shuffling caught my attention from deeper within the building. Without thinking, I followed the noise, my curiosity outweighing the instinct to flee. I drifted down the hallway, where the shadows pooled thicker. A flickering light ignited a doorway at the end, beckoning me forward like an inviting siren. As I approached, I could hear voices low, murmuring sounds that prickled the hair on the back of my neck. I paused at the entrance, heart thudding, and peered inside. The room was cluttered with remnants of the past, more photographs, old postcards, and trinkets forgotten by time. Among them sat several villagers, their expressions vacant yet eerily calm. They didn't notice me, they seemed entranced, swaying slightly like branches in a gentle breeze, their eyes fixed beyond me. I took a hesitant step inside. A chill crept over me, the marking of something wrong and familiar. Then my gaze fell on the center of the room where an ornate music box rested. It was covered in dust but still gleamed, drawing me closer. I could almost hear it whispering to me, coaxing me to turn the handle. In that moment, I recognized the tune. It was the same haunting melody that had filled the village, resonating deep within me. I felt an invisible tether pulling me closer, an urge to pull off the cover. But the villagers' glazed expressions sent alarm bells ringing in my mind. The whispers rose a pitch, echoing in my head, "Join us." "No," I whispered as I stepped back. But my heart raced at the thought of the truth trapped within that box. Would it explain the disappearances? I dashed back toward the hallway, the noise echoing behind me. The figures in the room turned, their eyes awakening with an unnatural light. "You can't leave," one of them urged, their voice layered with urgency. "You need to listen." Without looking back, I sprinted down the corridor, desperation fueling my escape. I spotted an exit sign glowing softly, and relief flooded through me as I approached. But a crackling voice echoed in the darkness behind me, "You can't escape your fate." Bursting through the doorway, I collided with the crisp outside air, gasping for breath. The daylight washed over me like salvation, but the shadows still lingered at the fringes. I stumbled away from the building toward the road, my legs feeling like lead beneath me. As I reached the street, a chilling realization gripped my heart. I had left the village behind, but its secrets still festered in the back of my mind. What truly happened that night? What connected me to the villagers who had vanished before? I turned once more to look at the ominous structure, now just a shadow in my past. I would never know every detail, every lifeline of the stories hidden in those walls. They would echo in my thoughts endlessly, haunting me till the end. Was it supernatural, or merely the byproduct of desperation? I moved to a new city soon after, leaving the memories behind. Yet, in the quiet moments, the music would swell in my ears, pulling me towards a past that flickered like embers in the corners of my mind. Sometimes, I wondered if the villagers found peace. Or if, like me, they remained forever bound to the darkness they had once sought to uncover.